Second, for the engineer here, some of your alternates show that they do not resolve the side yard flooding. I think we've got some residents here tonight who firsthand experienced that side yard flooding, which actually also is rear yard flooding and gets dangerously close to windowsills and basement stairs, if not above and then ultimately below and into the house. So I think I would just like to make a recommendation that anything that doesn't offer at the very least that level of protection, that we eliminate that side yard, which is where we're seeing water up to the structures. I think we have to eliminate those options, because I think that's definitely where some of these houses are getting water in. As far as the one home with, the raised ranch with the garage below grade, I'm sorry, that's just stupid in any neighborhood. I mean, your concrete driveway funneling water down, whether you got a trench drain or not. Okay, maybe in 1969 it didn't take water, but somewhere along the way it's going to have a problem, even if it's with ice damming over the inlet and then snow melting and rain coming down in February or March. So I think that house is an anomaly. That house may also be vacant. That may be an opportunity. If we're trying to protect that home, it may be cheaper to look at land acquisition. I'm not making the recommendation. I'm just saying that might be something that isn't addressed by the engineer, but maybe staff and council needs to consider that. Because any of these plans that you kind of try to go out of your way, or at least you state what doesn't really help the guy with the below-grade basement, to spend a lot of money and a lot of effort to protect one home that may not even be occupied at the moment, there may be a better way out of that, is what I'm saying. So I would also maybe like to eliminate any plans that bend over a little bit backwards to protect that one home. Maybe cheaper to grab the home.
I have one question. Could you go back to that one home with the driveway that goes down? Could you put that slide up? There was a,
Try the existing conditions slide, Dave. I think it's exhibit 1. Actually,
I need a picture.
it's basically this blue block here.
Okay, that's the one that the driveways goes down?
Yes.
Now, my question to you, if down the line, if the council decides or land acquisition, which we approach them to buy that if we do, that's what the council want to do, is there a way we could put a pipe from the street and go at the bottom of that, is that the forest preserve?
Yes, the forest preserve is.
And did the forest, and you said the forest preserve said we could do, we can't dig it up, but is there a way we could pipe it into that forest preserve? And then where would
You're
that
very
go?
limited towards your existing grades out there. And essentially, there was an improvement done of like a siphon pipe right here, which is basically a pipe with no positive outlet.
Okay,
Water pours in, goes into the pipe, and then has to come back out. And the only reason why it's designed that way is you don't have the grade change throughout here to daylight a pipe. You just don't have, if you put a pipe under the ground here, it stays underground for past Montclair. So
so we'll take a pass Montclair too.
you would have to drive a pipe all the way to the east to Montclair before you even have a positive outfall. So basically, you would have to go through the forest preserve if you wanted to put any sort of, unless you were gonna continue it like we did in a couple options to this location and out here. But just to go this way, you don't have the
We don't have the flow.
you don't have the positive pitch. Unfortunately, it seems like a repetitive record with some of these drainage problems. It's very flat here.
Okay, Mr. Luton, is it for this?
I just have a geographic question. North is to you, south is to Alderman Eugene Wesley.
I'm sorry, north is to the alderman, south is to myself.
Okay, now where is Wooddale Road?
Wooddale Road, and Dave, if you could put exhibit 1 back on, please. Wooddale Road is here to the west. It kind of goes up and off.
Wooddale Road is curving at that point?
Right.
Yep, and it turns to, and then it straightens back out to the north. So we're just, few homes to the east of Wooddale Road.
Where's Elizabeth?
Elizabeth Drive.
That's way
right at the
further.
crossroad.
Not off the map. not
Isn't
even-
it, I think it's far as,
Crossroad,
this is Spring Oaks right here. Right here.
up above,
Keep
higher,
up higher.
no, left, go up now.
Four-way intersection.
Go where the crossroad is, there it is, that's Elizabeth Drive.
So it's, we're a little bit west of Wooddale and north of Elizabeth, right?
We're a little east of Elizabeth Court, a little east of Wooddale.
Elizabeth Drive, that's one that goes all the way past the Forest Preserve, all the way to Addison,
Yeah, I believe we're a little bit north of Elizabeth
a
Drive.
little bit north.
Yeah.
Mayor Johnson, didn't you mention that there might be a water retention area around there that could be bought out or used in the future? It's there, I'll just leave it to you because I'm a little bit nebulous, but I'm asking you to tap your brain and remember things you've said in the past.
I believe we can't discuss that out here, Mayor.
Well, it's also in a different watershed than what we're talking about.
Yeah, it's a
He's discussing the there's two ponds at the Elizabeth Cove intersection there. But I do have a follow-up question, if I may, that's kind of related to that.
Right,
Did you
pass.
review the development plans for the 6-acre site? Because I think they were going to divert water from east to west. In a combination of Alderman Cadella's idea, which we can't talk about buying the house, and the redevelopment of this site and containing the water on the site and diverting it from the neighborhood, would that help resolve the problem?
If you diverted all that 6 acres basically out to the west, if you go to alternate one, Dave, real quick, you essentially will have the exact same situation as you have here, because that detention basin acts as basically stopping all the flow from
So
the,
at a developer's expense, we'd get this solution rather than at our expense?
Yes.
When the property's developed?
yes.
And that and combining with purchasing the house?
The tricky part, if a developer would desire to change the flow from the west to the, or to the east to the west on that 6 acres, you fall right on a major drainage divide, Salt Creek, and then Addison, tributary to Addison Creek. If they got past that, past the DuPage County ordinance, especially with the Salt Creek having so much flooding issues, I would be very surprised. They would most likely have to put some sort of detention pond at this location and continue the water flowing, but just hold it up.
That is something that we could require, at least the construction of this pond, as a condition of approving the subdivision?
Oh, absolutely. I think if you combine those acres, if they develop that entire thing, they will definitely fall within the detention requirements of the DuPage ordinance.
And then that would subsequently relieve the problem on the street here?
It would take that existing flooding where you would see it in more frequent storms and reduce it to the more severe storms only. But yes, absolutely right.
Okay. Any other questions?
Yeah, I have one.
I didn't see him. Go ahead, Mr. Coles.
You want to divert the water from Cedar through the Forest Preserve to Montclair, to Lake Aspen. You don't know what Lake Aspen is? That's a street that floods through the Forest Preserve every time it rains, all right? I live on Montclair. I've had floods there since 38 years. I've had floods on the corner of right off of I'm only a house away from the corner, and it's been flooding on that corner. It also has a little small retention pond which fills up, and you want to divert more water into the Forest Preserve?
We just wanted to.
You didn't, no, wait a minute.
Okay,
I'm not
sorry.
done yet.
I
I'll
apologize.
let you answer. You didn't think of that coming over to Montclair from Cedar. Cedar, the reason that, I can tell you the reason why it's flooding, because I've been there long enough. Put on that map where that blue circle, that blue one is.
Exhibit 1.
Not that one there. You see that thing you say that's a pond there?
Yes.
That used to be a pond. In 1973, I skated on that. That's how deep it was. All right? They used to hunt ducts there, because I lived across the street from it. And that has filled in. The reason that filled in, the forest preserve will not dig it out because they made that a nature unit, and they don't do anything in that thing except cut the trees down and drop them inside, because it's a animal refuge. And if they would come and dig out that area, which it was approximately 4 foot deep, we wouldn't have all this flooding in the area. But they won't do it. So, I mean, you're gonna divert more water to Montclair. You're gonna put water on Edgewood. You're gonna put water, which we built a big retention pond, which cost us $1 million on Third Avenue. And, I don't think you estimated what happened. They put in 30-inch pipes on Montclair, figuring that they could take the water away, and they still couldn't take it away. And then in 1999, I got pictures with kids down there that are up to the waist of the water on the turn. And that's in 99. In 87, when we had the big rain, I had 3 more feet, and I would have had water in my garage from the water that was there. It was over waist high, all right? So I realize that you got a problem, but you talking about throwing it into the forest preserve, you're gonna have other people complaining down the street. And George, Mr. Kramer's the new man here, and he's already known about Lake Aspen. And I think Dave has known about Lake Aspen.
Yeah, and let me be clear, we are not recommending sending more water downstream. We're presenting the alternative, and we're telling you right off the bat, the negative side of doing that alternative. Not only that, I don't believe the county ordinance would even allow us to send
push water
additional
in the
water when
forest.
there are damages downstream unless we jump through a lot of hoops demonstrating that it would not increase any of those damages. We present it as an alternative, but we are not recommending that.
All right, well, he was talking about putting water in the forest preserve.
The only thing is, he's just doing the proposals.
I know,
No one
but
said
I'm
that
just
he's
saying,
recommending it.
I realize we have problems on Cedar. We have problems on all the streets.
Right.
The matter is that used to be a swampy area.
Okay.
And when you convert a swampy area over to houses and take the swamp away, this is what you have.
Right.
When we looked at the alternatives and the ones that you see here, we were working with Dave very closely, and Dave, we had options for detention to slow the water down to help, but it did not solve your problem. We wanted to come across with those alternatives, which we don't want to do because it increases flow rates, is that to get rid of your entire problem, you would have to do something like that, and it would not be something we would recommend. We just wanted to propose the different alternatives that would
I realize you gotta do something, but I don't know what it is.
Okay. Alderman Roy West, you had your hand up?
Yeah, I know we're just going into discussion on this. I'm back to what Mayor Johnson was saying about the property. Does the city have the right to condemn a property that's in the county's district?
I believe we can't talk about that out here.
It's just a question, it's not,
I understand that, but I believe we should not discuss that.
Well, if it's a generic question, can we condemn property that's outside our borders? Yes.
that's all I need. Thank you.
Okay. Any other questions? I notice there is some people here from Cedar care to address questions about this since I asked. Sure. Okay. All right. Mayor Johnson.
Follow-up question, because you're showing the retention basin falls in front of the houses and the foundations. if I'm reading that correctly. So why does the flow go into the houses and go to the south? Is that the break point between the two basins, or why,
The blue is just to show.
the dark black line? It looks black.
Right here?
Yeah, which seems to be in front of all the houses, so,
Yeah, the rear yards flow to the east into the forest preserve, and the front yards essentially flow to the street, and that's the divide. And then the water gets up to an elevation high enough to spill into the forest preserve.
Look at that.
So this, if I'm reading this right, everything in the black line is basically a big basin. It has no natural drainage out of this area? It's a pit?
It's a very subtle pit. There is no overland flow route. And
There's a storm sewer, though.
there's a storm sewer.
There's a man, yeah, I mean, there's obviously man-made conveyance, but
And I think
this is a basin, essentially.
Yes.
Although you say a shallow.
a shallow, it's
subtle
very,
one.
very flat and shallow. And I think, I'm sorry, I forget your name, but pointed out that today this would not be designed is a great point out, because you would be required as a subdivision design.
That's where I'm going
To
with
have
this,
an
yeah.
overland flow path in case you have an ice jam or a clogging of the storm sewer, not just relying on a storm sewer.
Wow, thank
So
you.
today you would never be able to design something like this.
Any other questions? Want to make a recommendation? I guess not, huh? This one's,
Just curiosity, Bob, the guy who owned the pirate store, I think you're talking about him. Which one was his house? 'Cause that house flooded. That's 301.
301 South Cedar.
And where do you live?
I live a little ways down across the street on the other side of the street. Well, 301 is, the foundation is completely cracked, it's in foreclosure.
right.
And it's not buildable, probably needs to be knocked down. It's filled with mold, very unhealthy. I've been in there. Yep. No condition for human occupancy.
So maybe when buildings are knocked down there, we should have it as a no-build zone. And that might help reduce the property value of that house, but it might help the other property values, because at least there'd be some place for the water to go. At least we would prevent, because we would prevent another victim coming in and buying a house that's going to be flooded.
Roy wants to give your hand up.
You were just saying you were gonna make a recommendation, but it's only for discussion only.
Well, that's what I'm saying. It's only discussed only.
Okay. What- You were asking for a recommendation for,
So,
I have too many other questions that's legal problems.
so before, we aren't going to make a recommendation tonight, which direction we going with this discussion. That's why I'm saying, if you have anything to say tonight, you might well say it tonight, or come back to a council meeting.
Are you talking to me?
Well, I'm talking to the,
Oh, well, this is the first time I'm hearing this, so I'm not prepared to speak, and I have about 40 other neighbors that aren't prepared either, because this is the first we're hearing of this.
Okay.
To be perfectly honest, I want to be prepared, and I'm not prepared.
okay. It's fine.
You're welcome to come back
You-
anytime you want to speak.
Take a phone call next week.
Anytime. So-
Anytime.
Okay, so,
Thank you.
okay, let's go on to the next item. I
Thank
believe
you.
you're through. Okay. Thank you. I lost my agenda. What?
We didn't get any direction. You just want us to put this on the next committee meeting to pick it up and talk some more along with the other two?
Yeah.
That's fine. I just want some
Yeah,
direction
I
from
think we need to look at this a little more because there was some questions raised about,
I think you're going to receive a direction that we cannot talk about in open session.
right, that's
Yes.
the reason. Okay? Thank you, Mayor. Okay. Lost my agenda here.
What a night.
You know what? Mid taker is requesting a break for a couple minutes here. So let's take a break for 5. Call the meeting back to order.
Joe will be back in a second, but go ahead, start. We got a quorum.
Call the meeting back in order. Make the minute taker note that same people are present, except Joe, but he'll be back in a second.
And Ray.
Okay. The other item number 6 is report and recommendation for Forest View, Oakwood, Edgewood, Harvey Street reconstruction. I believe we are looking to just add this in the CIP project for 2011, 12, or 12, 13? 1213, we asked him to add this into the capital project for road reconstruction on these streets, along with the other road projects that are scheduled for that time. So that is my motion. Unless, Dave?
I was just going to add, we're not asking you to approve the final scope of the work out there, and we don't have the final report at this point. And as you know, the only thing that is locked into the CIP is everything in the upcoming year. After that, we really are just looking for a placeholder for this project, and again, staff is recommending FY 2013 for this.
But that will also follow in with the other road projects too, right, all at once? We are not cutting any other road projects out.
No,
right?
this is, right, this is an
So-
addition, we're not taking anything out. to
Basically, we're just
accommodate
adding
those.
this in. So I'll make a motion to add this into the road replacement scheduled for 2012, 13. That is my motion. On questions, comments? Mayor Johnson, you're first.
In favor, but one thing, when you do the hard engineering on Edgebrook, you coordinate with the grade separation and the tie-in to the opposite side of this?
Will do.
Yeah.
Okay. Alderman Cadala.
I just wanted to say, as long as we have the engineer who, that started with the preliminary study, if there's anything you want to tell us about this, I mean, I'm really invested in this project because it's been almost 3 years that I've been kind of pushing for it and making, trying to do my best to make sure that this is one area where our policy of any street that gets reconstructed that currently doesn't have curb, gutter, and sidewalk gets them. I argue that this is a bad place to do that. So I think I'm looking for validation. We've already gotten it from the city engineer. I wonder if from our consultant I can get that same validation. And I also want to maybe briefly hear from you the direction you think this is going to go. There are some cross-sections in here of approximate proposals of the way the roads are going to be. But are there other options with regards to some environmentally sound, some green building techniques that might even help bring us some grant money, such as like a bioswale, some kind of natural filtering? I know Ross Clicker has probably already asked you about it as well. I'd just like to hear what you can tell us about the project so far.
Yeah, this is kind of a unique little street. It's kind of a rural street in the middle of the city of Wooddale. And it's the houses were built in, I'm guessing, somewhere in the 60s, early 70s, 50s. Okay, but they're nice. It's a nice, quiet, rural subdivision just a couple miles from O'Hare Airport. And there's no reason or no need to really change this and make it into an urban area. I agree, when we do create an urban section, we would have to drop the road down, which is going to cause more flooding of the roadway. This is an area, especially the 2 streets that are closest to the creek, if we drop the road down to make it an urban street, we're probably going to be creating more flooding problems than what we currently have out here. The things that we're not into the design phase yet, we're just into the preliminary scoping of what the design would be. We do want to keep it green, and not just because the words green are popular now, but we want to keep it a nice area, filter the water before it gets to the creek the best we can without increasing the cost of the project. And this is a great area to do that. We can add bioswales, like you just mentioned, which would biologically, grass and things like that would help filter the water as it discharges from the street. Things like that will keep the area the way it currently is without changing the dynamics. It'll stay quiet. We'll keep our there's some very tall trees out in this area. We don't want to harm any of that. Basically put back what's there in a new condition and clean up. Currently, there's some pockets of water that don't drain, mosquito havens, whatever you want to call them. We'll try and get rid of those, let them drain after the storms are done. There are areas where the streets do go underwater in heavy rainstorms. I'm not sure if they ended up in the report, but we've got some pictures where the creek is over the streets. That we really can't fix. If we start trying to fix that, we're going to have DuPage County environmental concerns looking for where we're going to put massive amounts of water to try and remediate what we're filling in. So if it's underwater, it's been underwater for several years, it's really going to end up staying that way for what we're seeing right now.
Alderman Cadalla.
Two more things. Are you suggesting that there might not be additional costs in this design methodology? Bottom line is, total reconstruction, urban design, lowering the road, curb gutter, sidewalk, there's a cost involved with that. Maintaining the rural quality, reestablishing those swales, working around the trees, doing what we have to protect the aesthetic integrity of the area, and in the process being environmentally conscious. This isn't going to cost the city any more necessarily.
Right. Typically, what I've seen in things like that, it costs more to add the curb and gutter and the storm sewer and go to the urban section. It's basically a menu. Every time you do something that's unique, it can cost money. What we're proposing with things, or what we're thinking of right now, we're not even proposing yet, are things that really, we have to put grass out there anyways, so let's put a friendly type of grass. It might cost a little bit more, but in the scope of replacing pavement, that's a very small cost. Keeping it rural will probably be a lower cost than trying to convert it into an urban section, though.
Okay, good, thank you. And then lastly, would there be an opportunity for a very specific area, I don't know if it would be ordinance is the right word, where you allow the residents to eject their stormwater into these swales? Some of these homes, mine included, built in 1958, was built that way originally. So my storm is ejecting into the swale. The house next to me, built in 1989, same thing. Some of them are not. I hear a lot of neighbors complaining, it's so flat here, or the topography is natural. When these homes were built, nothing was raised at the home, no swales were put in on the property lines. We have 60 and 70-year-old dense vegetation, which would make that impractical. Would there be an opportunity here, without adversely affecting the operation of the system, for allowing residents, if they have the need or the desire, to pipe right into the swale in front of their house that we're going to be reestablishing?
Yeah, I think that water eventually is getting there
It gets there anyway, right.
So it wouldn't impact anything.
Good.
It's probably preferred for the homeowner to get that water away from their foundation, preventing any further problems. But yeah, that really wouldn't impact anything.
Perfect, thank you.
Alderman Luton.
I got a couple of real small questions. Forest View, Oakview, Edgebrook, Harvey, reconstruction. There's a small patch of road on Potter that's there. Is that included in here?
Yeah, yes, it is.
It's just omitted, but you do mean it to be
Yeah,
here.
we just didn't label it but yes, that is also included.
Second, do we have a drawing of this in here?
You should got it in your packet.
What we have is preliminary layouts on the road and a preliminary typical section of the street, but this is not the final report. This is the interim working report, and we will get you the final report after it's all completed.
Thank you. You know, when you go down Edgebrook, you've got a children's play area there. You got Lionwood Park, and that's when that floods. Then they get the sand has to be replaced. You know, it gets bad, and that's a flooding area because as soon as you get past the Simba Child Care building, you start getting flooding, and you've got I think the second house beyond it is already vacant. It's been vacant for many years, and it's built up. Do we recommend, tear down some buildings over there? And
Keep in mind, this is, the only thing we're approving tonight is to add this in the capital projects for 2012, 2013. We haven't even designed those streets yet, it's still 2 years out, so I mean, we can't answer those questions. All we asking, the discussion is to add it into the CIP project for 2 more years out. To have a debate on this now, it's not.
I'm not asking for debate, and I apologize if you got that impression from what I'm doing. I'm just asking, are these feasibilities? And I want to know what feasibility we can put into it, or will you be working with it to avoid flooding on a playground where children go out and play? We don't want them playing in, in putrid sand, contaminated sand. I think I remember talking to Mayor Johnson about 2 years ago when we had the flooding. Was it 2 or 3 years ago? But it was summertime and it was flooded, and when I drove by, I saw that all the sand was contaminated, and Mayor Johnson was able to get it taken care of. I believe you called the Park District, or it was the Park District you called, wasn't it? And had the sand taken out and replaced. So, I mean, I'm kind of concerned about where small children play, or children that are bigger than small. I don't want them playing in a sewer. I don't want them playing in a sand pit that's been contaminated. I rather think of them as assets of the future. So, Dave Graff, will you be doing work to protect our city parks and the park that's there? I mean, let's get specific. What will you work to protect Lyon Park from flooding and contamination?
The scope of this project is really not looking at the flooding caused by Salt Creek overtopping its banks. That's really beyond what anyone can do. The one component of their project, and we kind of added it later to look into helping out with the Salt Creek flooding, is we did ask URS to survey the levee that's along Forest View in the hopes of finding out where that elevation is now compared to what was permitted, and if it's lower, we'll go ahead and raise that either as part of this project or as a project we do in advance of this one. But other than that, we're really not looking at any of the Salt Creek flooding as part of this project, which is more the road reconstruction and the localized drainage problems.
Well, most of this problem that I see, and I didn't mean to interrupt you, and I apologize, but you're going in the creek area, and I'm seeing this coming from flooding on the street that's coming from really heavy rains, and I brought it in because it fits in with the swales and the other areas of discussion to mitigate water from standing.
If it's something that's coming from the streets, we can definitely look at intercepting it and keeping it from going there. If it's not from the creek directly, we can maybe do a better job of containing it on the street. So that part of it will be looked into.
Well, that makes me happy. That's what I'm trying to get at, to fix these kind of problems that contaminate areas where children play.
Okay. Alderman Roy Wesley.
We got a motion? Yeah?
We already have a motion on the floor. We
No,
have a
not yet.
second. Was
Okay.
discussion.
Call the question.
Let's go. All in favor? Aye. Aye. Opposed? You guys don't vote over there, or what?
You can't hear us, aye.
Okay. Board and recommendation, item number 8. Deer Path, road construction consultant hired, not to exceed $90,672. It is going to engineer Impression Incorporation. That is my motion to approve that.
I'll second that.
Any questions on the motion? Alderman Roy Wesley.
I'll have Christine had her hand up first.
Alderman Roy Wesley.
Okay. Dave, the engineer firm is putting in curbs and sidewalks.
No sidewalks.
Definitely putting in curbs, sidewalks is probably something we would have to discuss as we get further along with it. Now, as you know, that the east end of this street of Deer Path is under the jurisdiction of Addison Township. They definitely don't want curb and gutter. I haven't talked to them about sidewalk. They may let us put a sidewalk in there. I doubt that they would pay for it, but that's kind of an open issue. So the sidewalk question, or I guess we would have to look into, but
Let
curb
me-
and gutter as it
let-
sits now.
Let me rephrase the question. In the services that the engineer provides, it is what's curbs and sidewalks as an option, or?
Yeah, as it's written now, it's the full treatment, which is curb and gutter and sidewalk. But we can peel that out of there,
And that would lower the price?
yeah.
Okay.
I mean, they bill us for the work that they do. It's not just a lump sum contract with them.
Alderman Winger.
Thank you. What's our assurance that we're not going to have adverse reactions with waters, given that it doesn't have curb and gutter and sidewalks now? And after hearing all the discussion tonight of how curb and gutter can have adverse reactions, what's our assurance that this is going to work?
I think given the number of problems downstream of this location, I think the instructions I'll give the engineer are, look at the volume currently held in the ditches, do the new cross sections. Because the road is perched up above the adjacent ground, there's going to have to be some kind of swale or ditch anyway in there to drain that. Otherwise, we would just be draining back into people's front yards, which we don't want to do. So I'll have them calculate the existing volume, calculate the volume of the proposed road. If we're lacking in storage, we can maybe do something like put in oversized pipes or somehow redo the design so that we don't lose any storage. And before we even get the final plans done, I can bring that back to the committee here and say where we're at with it if there's concerns about losing storage volume. But in the first case, the instructions will be to the engineer, try and maintain all the storage that's there now and document that in the cross sections that you take along the road.
Right, and then we look at it before we say go.
Right, and again, we can do oversized storm sewers to make up for lost volume if we need to.
Alderman Cadella.
Well, I'm satisfied with your intent to maintain storage capacity. I just wonder, is there an opportunity, is there a reason to increase storage capacity? If we don't go to underground pipes and you maintain swales, make them even bigger than they are, basically, can this project result in any relief downstream where we already know we have people with problems?
Only by putting in oversized storm sewers. The problem that you're going to have, I haven't seen a survey on this, but I'd be willing to bet that road's a little bit more narrow than what we're going to want. If we have to widen it, even by a foot on each side, it adds up to a lot of volume that you're going to lose. So I think the only way to increase storage is by putting big pipes under the road.
Okay.
Mayor Johnson. I'm just going to go right down the line, Joe.
Given the precedent that's now been established with Oak Meadows Drive, where they did the engineering and then we cost share on the pavement, is this a project joint with the township?
The construction would be joint with the township. I mean, I'm proposing that the city would do the engineering cost just as the township did all the engineering cost for Oak Meadows, but they would
And-
participate. But the scope of their work is different from ours because they don't want a complete reconstruction and they don't want curb and gutter, so it would just be a resurfacing for their portion.
So we are talking with them and they have a heads up that this is going to be in their budget?
Correct. I talked to them and confirmed that they're totally on board with it.
Alderman Joe Coles.
We had a meeting with the people on, Marshall and myself had a meeting with the people that live on that street, and they don't want sidewalks. They said no sidewalks, only curbs. So, that's what they said. Because it's the way the lots are, they said that nobody walks down there.
I guess either we decide that tonight, or I could bring that question back to a future committee meeting if we want to
Well-
decide, or if we only want to do them part way from Central to
You only
Edgewood.
use it to 461 anyway, if we had a sidewalk down there. And after that, there is no more. So, they're kind of foolish.
Okay. Alderman Winger?
I say then, let's decide tonight, if Alderman Coles has a community input, let's take that out of the plans to do the sidewalk when we give it to the engineer.
My question then, are we eliminating the curbs then too, because
Well,
half?
curbs we need.
Well, here's the thing with curbs now. The county does not want curbs on their part. So are we going halfway down with curbs and then we stop? I don't know how that street's gonna look, Joe.
It's gonna look bad.
Well, this is what's the matter with the street. The street gets knocked around. It's a busy street. It leads to 83. You come down Central and you go down Deer Path, and it's a busy street. And what happens is they've been breaking off pieces of blacktop here and there, and you'd have, in a matter of, instead of having a road that's good for 10 years, you're only gonna have a road that's for 5 years, and you'll be doing it over. So that's the reason why we decided to put, we don't have to put high curbs in. You can put any kind of a flat curb just to hold the street together. You
But-
don't have to put, just to hold the street.
I understand that, but my concern is how much feet is the force of counties? How far down? Is it 100 feet?
It's
200 feet?
approximately 25% of the total length. Okay, about approximately 500 feet
Okay.
is township.
So my question here is, we're going to have 500 feet of no curbs, because, remember, DePage County is not, you said right off that they don't want curbs.
Correct.
So, I don't know how it's gonna look. If, it's your ward. If you want curbs, that's fine, but I'm just saying, it's gonna look like garbage.
Why would it look like garbage?
Because you ain't doing
Because
the whole street.
you put gravel alongside the edge like they do on Oak Meadow, and you fill it up, right up to where the curb is, and that's it. The curb will go down.
We
If you
would,
go
we
down
would
the
put a
cent-
new shoulder along that.
What?
sec- We would put a gravel shoulder along that section. The township said they wanted to do that.
Okay.
Alderman Winger?
Alderman Coles, we just want to make sure that you're aware that the township is not going to do the curb in intersection, so it's going to look like half and half.
My dear,
Okay.
I've been looking at the street for
Okay. No more,
2005.
no more discussion then. If that's
more
what the,
discussion.
if that's what the ward wants,
That's what they
I don't
want.
want them to come back and tell me that we didn't do
Hollering
it.
at you.
Right.
They'll holler at me.
Mayor Johnson?
With all due respect to Alderman Coles, I think it's premature probably to drop the sidewalks without doing a current survey if this dates back to Alderman Subak's days, because that is a major east-west thoroughfare, and that does get quite a bit of traffic. So you don't want young children walking on the blacktop, so maybe we should do a current survey on that.
Well, my question is, right now, we just awarding the contract to them start. Can't we do that down the line?
I
decide?
agree, but I thought Alderman Winger made a suggestion we decide that tonight, and maybe we should contact the residents again if it was done several years ago. Neighborhoods change.
All right, we're just going to award the contract, and then we'll make the decision down the line with the sidewalks.
Yeah, we can send a
It ain't
mailer
that
out
hard
the
to pull them
residents.
out. All right, so there's a motion on the floor, there's a second, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye, motion carries.
Did you say aye?
Why?
I don't think it's legal. You gotta have more than two ayes.
Okay, all in favor on the motion on the floor?
It's been second. The motion is
Second on
that,
the floor to award the contract for $90,672. That is the motion. There's a second. All in favor? Aye. Oppose?
aye.
You're opposed?
I'm for
One opposed.
One opposed. Let's move on, guys. It's getting later and later here.
We're getting tired.
You're doing good.
We're getting silly.
Okay, let's go to,
Number 9.
pay request for, recommend pay request number 1, United Dynamic Corporation, the amount of $10,800 for the Wooddale decorating streetlights project. I make that motion to approve.
I second it.
Questions? No question, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Item number 10. Report and recommendation pay number 2 to our Cushman Construction LLC for amount of $90,317.70 for North Plant Excavation Flow Pump Station. I will make that motion for the payment.
And I'll second it.
Questions? All in favor? Aye, motion carries. Item to consider future meeting, brush pickup, agreement base update new pavement, solar power lights, stormwater solution, mosquito embankment contract, and the other thing I'd like to say, any other items? Okay, I will make one other statement.